All right. All right. Hi everyone. So my name is Abdullah, and this is batch working group biweekly meeting. Today is April 27th. So we have a packed agenda for today. Aldo is not on the call yet, so I guess we can start with the second item, which is Marcin and describing the roadmap for 0.4. Or do you want to wait until Aldo talks about 0.3?
Maybe let's give him a minute or two. If he doesn't show up, I can start. Is that okay?
Yeah, the other option is to start with Diana.
Oh, here he is.
Okay. All right. All right, Aldo, do you want to present?
Hi, yes. Do I have permissions already?
Yeah, I just gave you permissions. Go ahead.
All right. This will be quick because what I want to say is what was already said during.
You're muted. We can't hear you.
You can hear me now, right?
Marcin, do you want to present and Aldo can talk? Because I think we have this problem with.
I have a different presentation.
I think. What about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So we cannot share tab. We have to share window. So this will be quick. Yes. Okay. This will be quick because this is already being announced in KubeCon and in emails. So basically, we released Q 0.3 a few weeks back, 2 weeks back, and one of the major things is that we declare the API beta, and this means that we will be respecting deprecation policy. So if we decide to do breaking changes with a new API, we will support the old API for 3 releases. We added increased validation via webhooks, and in terms of new features, the biggest one is preemption. We identified 2 kinds of preemption. One is for the case when you have shared resources, or when cluster queues are borrowing quota from each other. If a cluster queue is borrowing quota, this can be taken back by the, let's say, the original owner of the quota. So that's one kind of preemption. The other kind of preemption is purely priority-based, very similar to how kubescaler works. If a new job comes in with higher priority, it can preempt other running jobs with priority. So we hope you can give it a try. If you can think of additions to this preemption feature, please let us know. The other new feature is we are now supporting MPI job from Kubeflow, specifically the V1 beta 2 version of it. This was done in collaboration with one of the maintainers from Kubeflow. So very happy about that collaboration. And then we also added this optional feature, which we call wait for pods to be ready. It is a sequential form of admission that might be useful while we have better support for all or nothing or for stockouts. So there is that. And we started adding support for limit ranges. So when you have limit range, your pods will be created with specific requests, and then we are taking that into account when calculating the quota usage of a job. And finally, we added a library for integrating custom jobs. So this is the library that Kubeflow is using, and even the job API is using the same library. So we hope it's helpful for any job CRD to be supported by Kube. And last, I want to give a big thanks to all our contributors. I'm very happy that we got a lot of new contributors in the release 0.3. And I'm already seeing new contributors for the next release. So very, very encouraging to see. If you have any thoughts, please please don't hesitate to open issues or find us in Slack. That's it for this presentation.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, I guess we can move on to the next item on the agenda. Marcin, take it away. Marcin will talk about Q roadmap for 0.4.
Yes, give me a second. I have troubles with presenting. Can we go to another person? I need to change some configuration on my MacBook.
I can present for you. I have the.
Okay, if you have it configured, then please do.
Let me open the slides. So. Okay, take it away.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so let's start with clarifying what we hope to have in terms of release cycle. The previous release were a bit random. Now we want to have a strong commitment to 2 to 3 month release cycle. That means that 0.4 release of Q is targeting end of June and 0.5 release end of September. Next slide. We want to be also clear what gets into releases. Obviously, all of the bug fixes gets in, and we divide features into 2 categories. Features that block release, and we will not proceed with the release until these features are completed. And features that are nice to have, we have strong commitment to doing them, but if for some reasons we fail to complete them within the expected time frame, they are moved to the next release. They don't block the release. Okay, so what we are planning for 0.4. We want to, I will quickly name the features that are release blockers, and then I will describe them one by one. We want to account for terminating pods when doing preemptions. We want to to have some improvements in our gang scheduling version queue. We want to complete limit ranges validation and improve behavior in best efforts queuing. Okay, next slide. The first feature is account for terminating pods when doing preemption. So Q currently assumes that all resources are released once the job is preempted. Unfortunately, it's not exactly true because pods take a little bit of time to actually finish, and starting the new workload immediately after preempting the previous one may consume more resources that the queue was allowed to do, and potentially unnecessary trigger cluster autoscaler because the new pods will be pending and the cluster autoscaler will try to find space for them. So we are proposing a solution where workload will still block the resources until all pods are terminated after it is preempted. This feature is currently being worked on, and we really hope to have it in 0.4. Next slide. Requeue at the back of the queue after timeout. So as I said, queue has initial approach to gang scheduling. So we try to start a workload. We wait for X minutes until it is started. And if it is not fully started within X minutes, it gets preempted. But in the current implementation, it gets to the front of the queue, so chances are that we will retry the very same workload that we failed to start a moment ago. So the idea is, instead of putting it into the front of the queue, put it in the back and try with other workloads that may actually have a better chance of getting scheduled. Next slide. In the similar area, we have a limited throughput when we are doing this gang scheduling. So currently, the queue is fully blocked until the currently tried workload is fully started, even if we have plenty of resources available in the cluster. So to improve it, we are working on a mode where the user will allow to start as many workloads in parallel as possible, hoping that all of them will fit. That will obviously increase the throughput, but also potentially increase the number of failed startup attempts, because not all of the workloads will actually fit into the resources. Next one. Most of the limit range support was added in Q0.3, but there are some missing pieces that we hope to complete in 0.4. So currently, by default, Kubernetes don't admit pods that are outside of the configured limit range. For example, the request or limit is outside of the configured brackets. They won't be admitted and the job effectively won't be able to start. We want to duplicate this approach in queue. So instead of admitting workloads which has pods outside of the limit range, don't admit it at all, fail it immediately, because if this workload was started, it would be kind of blocked by the limit range admission plugin. Next slide. The last on the blocking feature list is prevention of starvation of large jobs. With best effort queuing, smaller jobs may cut the queue and start before the larger jobs are still waiting for resources. However, if there is a constant flow of small jobs, large jobs may be kept in the queue indefinitely. They will be basically starved. So to fix it, large jobs will be able to preempt smaller jobs that were queued after them, but they are already running, and that option will be configurable per cluster queue. Okay, next slide. We also have a couple of items on the nice-to-have list. The first one is to dynamically reclaim resources. Currently, all of the resources and quota is released after the job is finished, even though some of the job pods may finish earlier. With this feature, we want to account for that and release parts of the quota allocated for the workload as the pods complete, not everything at once, so that the system overall has better utilization. We want to also have support for array and other kubeflow operators. The work is in progress. Array job is looking good. but we cannot have guarantees whether the features in Ray jobs will be eventually merged before 0.4 release. So that's why it's on the nice to have list. It's not a blocking one. There is a pending PR that adds suspension support in other kubeflow operators other than MPI job. We hope that this PR will be eventually merged, but again, we don't have any guarantees, so that's why support for other kubeflow operators is on the nice to have but non-blocking list. Okay, that's all what we have for 0.4. If you have any ideas for features that you would like to have here, please let us know. There is still some time and they may actually get in. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marcin. Any questions?
So I had 2 questions regarding preemption. So first, on the 0.3 slides, you mentioned that you have 2 flavors of preemption. One of which is like the kube scheduler one with based on priority, and one of which is based on, I think, basically reclaiming quota borrowed from one queue to another. For this reclaiming quota preemption, how do you determine what you're going to preempt?
We basically look at the cluster queues that are overcommitted. And we still have a couple of modes, so you can actually choose if priority is respected or not. But basically, if while there is while a cluster queue is overcommitted, we consider those jobs for preemption. That's the idea. Does that answer your question?
So do you account for things like, because you conceivably you could preempt a pod that doesn't actually, say from QA, that doesn't actually facilitate scheduling anything new from QB because it requests resources other than the ones you preempted.
Right. Yes. So we basically do a simulation we simulate removing the pod or the job and run the quota usage algorithm and see if the new job fits. That's how we implement it. So
you randomly select some pods to simulate for preemption.
Yes. So we sort them based on some criteria. We simulate removing them. If we keep removing until the job fits, until the new job fits, and then we add back. We try to add back whatever we can. So so it's a greedy approach because this problem is NP anyways. But yeah, basically this greedy approach doesn't find the best solution, of course, but it still guarantees that we're only removing jobs that help. New job. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see. Thanks. The other one.
The same is
for
the same is for both modes of preemption.
Yeah. So thanks. There was also the second question, which is you said that you may eventually determine that large jobs should preempt currently running jobs. Do you have some mechanism by which you dynamically change the priority of these large jobs to make them sort of more aggressive in preempting? Or how would you tune this?
So there is no fixed design yet, but it will go somewhere along the lines that you mentioned. So as if we notice that the job that has been in a queue for long would be started if some of the already existing pods, jobs were preempted, and which come after this job was created, then these jobs would be preempted. That's a similar approach if we temporarily increase the priority of this job by, I don't know, 0.1 or something like that.
So the key point here is that we only preempt the ones with the same priority that started after you were queued.
Yeah, okay, I see.
The queue constantly evaluates the queue, the jobs that are there, and may do this little bit of trick with preemptions. However, the exact design for this and the exact mechanics is not yet decided.
Okay, but like the intuition will be increase the priority by epsilon and see if you could, what would happen. Okay, excellent, thank you. That's it for my 2 questions.
Diana, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out, I'm sorry, I haven't been keeping up with this, but with regards to quota, is there some consideration for elastic jobs in the quota evaluation?
We considered this for 0.4, but we moved it to 0.5 at the earliest. Yeah, that's our current take.
Okay, so all jobs in this, as far as quota is evaluated, is evaluated as static jobs.
Yes,
Yes.
we don't the parallelism level or anything like that. So everything is static, and at least until we've got this dynamic reclaiming creates like a rectangle of resource usage, not a trapezoid or whatever. So everything, all quota is acquired at the start and released at the end. Hopefully, with dynamic reclaim, we'll get this trapezoid thing. But eventually, we hope to have much more dynamic approach to quota management.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
There is a new feature in upstream Kubernetes called pod scheduling readiness. It might play a role in like queue support for dynamic, autoscale jobs basically. And this feature will be available, like I think in beta in 128.7. Yeah. So there's this dependency as well, I guess. All right, thank you. Moving forward, next we have Diana. Do you want to present?
Sure. Let me know when I can.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Oh, yeah, got it. Okay, so just give a little history because kind of started this back at the end of last year. Part of the charter was that the batch working group would have some recommendations that come out of it. And so in one of the past meetings, I was kind of just going through, what are the possible deliverables and such. And a lot of this came from the charter, but just a little bit of background, I was kind of just capturing what are the different aspects of the batch life cycle and how it touches so many different components or SIG groups in the Kubernetes ecosystem. And so now I had to do some things, and now I'm coming back to the work, and I'm thinking, well, what do we want to say with regards to this recommendations, and how is the consumer going to actually consume this with regards to recommendations? A lot of these recommendations are going forward in the different work groups, and so how is the batch working group? How could it possibly, provide some additional context to help, surround what these recommendations are? Because there's some of them are very minor and great additions, minor in the sense of a small amount of features, and some are really big. So I really struggle with how do we go about making recommendations. So my thought is that after collecting a lot of information and discussing in an initial meeting, was that maybe an approach might be to actually have a living document that kind of captures the features that people might be interested in looking into, and then to be able to sorry, oh, this is the wrong chart. This is another one. To capture the features of what the, all of the things that are being worked on across working groups, across SIGs, so that when a consumer comes in and they say, I really want to run my batch workload, that I've been using these other technologies, and maybe I need to know these features need to exist, and where are they at? Are they in queue? Are they in the new job API? How far along are they? And so, hang on for a minute, let me get the right chart, sorry. So what I did was I produced, if I can get to it. Here we go. Nope. Here it is. So this is in the link in today's notes, but I try to, my proposal is, as far as recommendation is concerned, is really try to capture some of the working items that are existing, and not really to produce what's already been done. There's a lot of interesting and great work that's being done in Q, but really some of the details that an end user might wanting to know about, some of this is already done. This is just an example, for like maybe I need to know, express my job in some multiple templates, right? So does that feature exist, and where is it being worked on, and how do I go about tracking? So it's kind of an introduction of, here are some features, here's the different work groups that they may be touching upon, here's some dependencies that they may have with other changes in other work groups. And so my thought is that we could keep this as a live document for users that are coming in using another tooling system and said, okay, I need these 3 or 6 or 10 features, and where are they at with regards to the Kubernetes batch working group support for batch workloads. And so these are columns that I suggest that's possibly we want to track. Maybe we can revisit it, once every 2 or 3 meetings to see where it's at, or people can go in and just update them accordingly. And then the other thing that I was thinking through, because in that first meeting when we talked about stuff, or talked about what these recommendations are, there were additional recommendations that came out of, one of them was, and I didn't capture it well, so I couldn't express it here, but it was really more advanced features with regards to scaling or APIs for the clouds. And so I thought, well, as we are meeting and discussions are happening in the work group, maybe what flushes out is a new use case that comes out that really is not being tracked, or we don't have it defined in any sort of associated work group. And we can just capture it here so that we can see over time how we might decide to add that feature or support that feature, or at least let the users know that yes, we've captured that that requirement that they may need, and we can look to that to see where to recommend to push the details of that solution or that use case that they have. So this is kind of, after revisiting what we talked about the last time and thinking through it, this is my proposal. The goal here really is not to reproduce all the details that are being done in the individual work groups or SIGs, but really to be able to say, okay, these are the things, these are all the pieces that make up some of the work that's being done, and it may be across different work groups. And so let's see if it's useful to capture that so users can come to this and say, okay, I'm interested in multi-cloud template because I need that for, being able to express my job. That's a minimum requirement. And where is it at? What's the status? Oh, it exists. Okay, great. Maybe that's the only thing I need to start using, the upstream batch solution. So that was really it. I just wanted to get some feedback because I'm wanting to kind of move this recommendation tracking forward. And so I just wanted to present it here as just a starter, get some feedback, see how folks are thinking through this. Maybe there's some gaps, or maybe we can just toss this idea and say there's enough tracking being done already and we don't need to do that, which I'm okay with as well. And that's it.
Thank you, Diana. I have a couple of, this is great. I have a couple of comments here. One is Marcin had discussed, and we discussed having some sort of something similar, like a portal, like a collection of, everything related to running batch on Kubernetes. Starting with this document, I think it's a good starting point. We collect everything and then we discuss, okay, where is that going to actually land? I think a document is not probably the best way eventually. Ideally, we would have something under Kubernetes documentation, main web page. We have a batch concepts page that have everything related to batch. So that's
great, because that's exactly where I was originally going, but I said, let me start out with this document. Yeah. So I'm right on track with it.
Yeah, this is great. The other one I'm thinking about is maybe we can try to brainstorm crowdsource user journeys. And then those maybe represent, for example, if you remember our structure of documentation in Kubernetes, there's the concepts and there is the tasks form. The task, having user journeys saying, okay, I have this user journey where I have this workload that does this and that, and I want to deploy it in Kubernetes, batch workload. Then we say, okay, you start with job API, you need to use this and that feature, et cetera, et cetera. So specific user journeys and then specific application to a specific tooling, how to enable this user journey, the things that the batch working group is working on. So
that's great.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily feature tracking, but it's more about user journey feature matching. This is another way to look at it.
Yeah, it's how somebody can have a certain I don't want to say use case, but a certain way that they're using batch workloads now, and how you might go through and transition over to some of the features that are being upstreamed. So I think great. That's a good point.
Marcin? You're muted.
Yes, sorry. I would like to second what Abdullah said. So I would really love to have a portal, not only with documentation, but also with the links to videos that people from this group and others created, like the presentations that were done within this group on KubeCon, on Batch Day. They're all spread across YouTube. You could search them, but if you could create, I don't know, a course or something like that, explaining how to do batch processing in Kubernetes using these videos, that would be awesome. Also, gather other materials, create a portal which would guide you and guide newcomers for all aspects of batch using the stuff that we already have and which is kind of for free.
Yeah, that's great. Another great idea.
Aldo?
Yes, thank you for this doc. I think it will be useful to keep it on track here. I think we can brainstorm in Google Docs, but maybe a better destination for it is the developer website. I don't have the link at the moment, and probably a lot of people are not aware that there is a developer exclusive website for Kubernetes that we can probably put put these contents there. Because let's say tracking is probably not meant to be in the main Kubernetes website, but for the developer website, I think it would be useful to have it there.
Great. I'll take a look at that as well. If you have it handy, the link handy, if you can send it to me on Slack, otherwise I'll just go find it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for that feedback, and this document's already out available. Just, you know, we can refine this as much as possible, remove things, add things, and I'll continue to start contributing to this and getting people's feedback as well. Thank you. I gotta look to see how do I stop sharing.
Aldo,
Maybe I'll do.
job success completion policy.
Yes, 1 second, I think so. The website is kubernetes.dev.
Awesome.
Okay, sorry. What is my next item? Because I have a few. Sorry about that. Can you just share your screen for with the issue open, Abdullah?
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
And you see the issue open?
Yes. Perfect. That's good. So this is a new feature that I came up with a long time ago, but it was recently. I found the requirement again after discussing with the Flux maintainer, the Flux operator maintainer. And I just want feedback from the community before we start any API design. Basically, we already started working in failure policies for job, but at the same time, some use cases require completion policy. And a few examples of use cases or example of policies can be shown there in the issue. For example, if you have a driver worker setup, maybe your index 0 is the driver, and you just need to look at the index 0 to declare the job completed. So that's one possible policy. Or if you're doing training, on reinforcement learning, and where each index is a different instance. Maybe you don't need all of it to complete. You just need a percentage of successful indexes to finish, and then that you can declare the job as finished. So these are the ones that I have came up with or I have run into. But if you have other use cases, please comment. There is already a contributor that is willing to work on this feature, Yuki, which is coming from from Kubeflow community. And yeah, just any comments, please leave them there. Maciek?
Isn't the first use case already possible with the current implementation? I remember in the non-index case, if you do not set completions to any particular number, the first one that finishes. So it's not specifically index 0, but I could see how that works in the index job with for the 0 specifically. So that's probably something that we would have to double check. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me finish. For the second and third, I'm even inclined to say, first of all, this is probably just one field, because if you look at the Kube API, there are multiple cases where we, in a single field, express either percentage or a specific number. And I could probably see the second and third use case being applied to regular jobs in a similar fashion as with the index most likely.
Yes, so I think that's valuable feedback. Back to your first question, we cannot currently complete the job if any index finished, because completions is required for index jobs. So that's why. So one possibility, of course, could be to relax this validation. Although, yeah, we need to look at the implications. So basically, I'll summarize what you said in the issue so that we can, when we write the cap, we can put all of those options in the alternatives and weigh them in.
But like, it's not any, like, that's I guess the difference here. It's always going to be a specific index that is the driver, and that's the one that knows about the status of the rest of the job. So that's also another difference here.
Yes. I think still, I mean, still useful to think about. But yeah, we need to consider the possibilities in the cap. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one last item on, like, having a PDT or APAC friendly meeting. I don't know if Vanessa is on the call, or is it just Aldo?
I don't think she is. I put this on behalf of her. So we currently don't have a PDT or APAC friendly meeting. Arguably, the bulk of the contributors to the working group batch are in Europe. So it currently makes sense how we are setting up the meeting. But as more people are joining, as contributors keep contributing, we probably need to consider splitting in two or just switching the time. So I think I plan to start by sending a survey of where people are and which tolerance they have for, how late they can stay at work or how early they can wake up, things like that. So my plan is, yes, to send a survey with the caveat that we will probably not be able to accommodate everybody, and if we have to make compromises, we need to prioritize the people who are contributing the most. Yes, which are currently underrepresented. I think in Q we have significant contributions from China and Japan, and the current time is very not appropriate for them. And in the West Coast, we have some folks also that also want to participate. So my proposal is just to start with a survey with those caveats, but I'm happy to receive other ideas or concerns.
Thank you. Hopefully we wouldn't need to have 2 different meetings. Ideally, we can find a time where, like, the whole group can get together, but maybe not. Maybe it's not feasible. But at least this is my wish.
Yeah, I guess there is always the concern that one meeting ends up being the second-class citizen.
Yeah.
Which happens in 6 scheduling. So but at least starting with a survey to see where the bulk of our contributors are. It's probably useful.
Okay. I mean, we see a healthy attendance in this one, 17 people almost. But yeah. All right. Any last comments from the community? All right. So in 2 weeks, we have 2 more interesting topics on the Job API and the Job Set API. I'm just teasing here. We are planning to release Job Set 0.1 probably in the next week, and ideally, hopefully, we can present a demo at the next meeting. Stay tuned. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.